Hello everyone, this is Andres Restart, and today we are talking about the top most likely Nintendo remasters on their way to the Switch. We've been getting a lot of remakes and remasters over the last couple years, and we're sure to be getting more over the next couple years as we transition into the next generation. Switch 2 may be coming out sometime next year, hopefully early based off the most recent reports, but even upon its release, it's expected that the Switch will still be getting games a couple years afterwards. And the majority of these games are likely going to be more remakes and remasters. So with this remaining half year of 2024 before Switch 2 has even come out, and then the next couple years afterwards as Switch 1 wanes and Switch 2 picks up, there's bound to be many remakes and remasters that Nintendo puts out for the console. And there are sure to be games not mentioned in this video that we will see announced. But of the ones that have been in that conversation, which ones are the most likely? That's what I would like to talk about today. But before going forward, let me ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell. So before I get into this list here, let me point out what I guess would be kind of like an honorable mention. And that's just because I don't think this is going to be a remaster, but rather a full-blown remake. And that is the rumored Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. This is an old Fire Emblem game, so the thinking here is that this game is going to be greatly modernized, so it's going to need to be remade, considering the gap in generations here. It's been rumored from Nate the Hate for some time, considered to be one of the more credible leakers out there. But also, we have this interesting situation going on with the Fire Emblem codenames. Fire Emblem Engage was internally codenamed Iron 19, while Three Houses was codenamed Iron 17. Whatever happened to Iron 18? It might be this remake that we've been waiting for so long. But because it's a remake, technically, I'm not putting it in as a part of this list. And with that in mind, I will also mention that some of the potential remasters I will bring up here might end up not being remasters. They could be remakes. But for now, I will assume that these commonly discussed remasters are going to stay as that, remasters. Of course, as we've discussed recently, remasters can still be pretty ambitious and do a lot of great things to modernize the game. And one more disclaimer before getting into the list. This is my opinion. I do not know the true likelihood of these games. Some of these games mentioned may never see the light of day, be it because they were never going to happen, be it because they were cancelled, pushed, or delayed. We don't know. But this is how I would rank the likelihood of these games. Starting in at number 11. It is Xenoblade Chronicles X. I think this is the least likely of the games we'll be discussing in this list here. And it's not because I don't think we're going to see Xenoblade Chronicles X at some point brought back. I do. I just don't think it's going to be remastered for Nintendo Switch 1. I think we're going to see it at some point as Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition for Switch 2. So Monolith Soft has already remastered one of their Xenoblade games, the original Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. The original release came out for Nintendo Wii, and they waited until Nintendo Switch to remaster this game, which is about 1 to 2 generations ahead. And the thing about Definitive Edition, yes, it adds new content, yes, it adds quality of life updates, which we could see added in a theoretical Switch version, which is why I will put it in this list. Maybe Xenoblade Chronicles X is something they want to put on Switch because there's such a large audience and it will do pretty well. But based on how they handled the first Definitive Edition, I think they're going to save this for Switch 2, where there's a bigger generational leap where they can focus on enhancing the visuals significantly. Because that's what we saw for the first Definitive Edition. So for X, I expect something similar, and we're going to need more powerful hardware. Xenoblade Chronicles X came out for the Wii U, which is only just a little bit weaker than Nintendo Switch. The leap wouldn't really be significant at all. So for this reason, of all the remasters we'll be talking about today, I think this is the least likely we'll see on Switch, but I still think we'll see it at some point, just more likely for Switch 2. The next game on this list is Super Mario Galaxy 2. It's a game that many fans have been requesting for. Many were expecting something to happen with it after 3D All-Stars. We had Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, but not Galaxy 2. Many have thought that it's odd that this game would be left out. But with the expectation of more remakes and remasters on the way these next couple years, I think there's a really good chance we will see Nintendo revisit Galaxy 2. And I don't expect them to do anything extremely special for it, basically what they did for Galaxy 1. In that form, in that way, I think it would work out perfectly fine. And I could see this game coming out sometime in 2025 or 26, close to the release of the next Mario movie. We've already seen Nintendo take great advantage of the boosted sales of the first Mario movie. I expect them to do the same. And I'm sure the next new big 3D Mario will be coming out for Switch 2 sometime next year, but Nintendo will still want to appease Switch 1 owners with something Mario. And I think Mario Galaxy 2 would be the best fit for this. So for that reason, I think it's fairly likely to come out at some point down the road for Switch 1. At number 9, I'm going to say it's F-Zero GX. F-Zero GX has been rumored to be getting a remaster for Switch for some time. Those rumors kind of died down after F-Zero 99, but it hasn't been completely written off yet. The thinking has been that F-Zero 99 was that first step. It put out the brand in front of a larger audience through Nintendo Switch Online, so a lot more people are acquainted with F-Zero now after it's been dormant for such a long time. And they could release F-Zero GX Remastered, a greatly enhanced version of this game, and it could do pretty well for Switch 1, and then hopefully it does well enough that Nintendo feels that it's time to finally give us a brand new F-Zero sometime during the Switch 2 era. I wouldn't even be surprised if this is something that comes out for Switch 1, but they still have a Switch 2 patch for it so it looks and runs a little bit better on the new console. Keeping in mind Forgotten IP, for number 8, I'm going to say it's Kid Icarus Uprising. This, in my opinion, is one of the best 3DS games. It was only limited by the limited controls of the Nintendo 3DS, so remastering this for a more modern console would do wonders for the game. And Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Smash and Kirby and also Kid Icarus Uprising, has been campaigning for this game to get a Switch port at some point or another multiple times. And some have even thought that he may have been hinting at one being in the works already. Although I would say with his most recent suggestion, it's more so that he just wants it to happen. But with him wanting it to happen, with him bringing it multiple times, and with it being a quality game that would definitely be a lot better remastered for a new console, I can see this game happening. And so I'm eagerly anticipating the day when Kid Icarus Uprising Remastered is announced. But there's another Nintendo action game coming in at number 7 that I think is even more likely than Kid Icarus, and that is Star Fox Assault. So what's interesting about this is that once upon a time, many thought that Kid Icarus Uprising was for sure going to get remastered, and as I just argued, I think it will, but I'm not sure if it's already in the works. Star Fox Assault, on the other hand, I kinda think there's a bigger chance that it might be. So a while back we saw that Bandai Namco has been commissioned by Nintendo to work on some sort of Nintendo action game as a remake or remaster. And many thought it was Kid Icarus Uprising, but from the different comments of Sakurai, a lot of us don't think it's been in the works by Bandai Namco, at least at that point. So it then raises the question, what were they working on, or what have they been working on? And Namco is responsible for Star Fox Assault. So perhaps they could be going back to Star Fox Assault here, remastering it, improving it, so we can have a more modern Star Fox offering until Nintendo is ready to give us the next true generation of Star Fox, because it's been quite a long time. I would also say that Star Fox has better sales potential than Kid Icarus or F-Zero. Not to say that one can't beat out the other, but when you look at the success of Star Fox 64, I think if they were to give us some sort of cool offering of Star Fox on Switch or Switch 2, it would almost be a lock to do really well. That's my take at least. Something that I think will sell better than most of the games mentioned today so far would be another Zelda remaster. And there have been a few that have been rumored for quite some time from credible places, but they've just been apparently just sitting on a shelf somewhere for a really long time, and we're not sure why Nintendo's released them yet. My thinking is that they're simply waiting for the right time to release them. They haven't needed to put these out yet. We've seen Nintendo sit on a whole bunch of games this generation, and I think there will come a time when there is a vacancy where it makes sense to put these out. And if you don't know what I'm referring to yet, I'm referring to Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. I think Twilight Princess is the 6th most likely remaster to be coming to Nintendo Switch. And yes, that means I think Wind Waker HD is even more likely. I've argued that these games should be bundled together, but that's not guaranteed. And if they're not bundled, they come out separately, and there's always a chance we just see one versus the other. So if I had to take my pick, I would say Wind Waker is the 5th most likely to come out, and we would see Wind Waker before Twilight Princess HD, because Wind Waker is something that stands the test of time. Wind Waker HD still looks great now. Twilight Princess, on the other hand, clearly shows its age. So it wouldn't surprise me if Twilight Princess HD gets shelved indefinitely until they decide it's time to actually remake the game and not just port over the remaster we saw for Wii U. So I think Wind Waker HD is more likely. However, both of these games have not been announced and they've been rumored for such a long time. I'm not saying they're not going to come, but I am starting to think that there are other remasters Nintendo is prioritizing. Maybe because Nintendo has other Zelda games they want to focus on before they rely on these remasters. And these other Zelda releases wouldn't be remasters, they'd be remakes or just brand new games. And so with that said, we're moving on to things that are even more likely, and the next most likely, I think, is Tomodachi Life. Tomodachi Life is a game that sold extremely well on Nintendo 3DS, and if the success of the Miitopia remaster is anything to go by, they definitely should be remastering Tomodachi Life. Tomodachi Life was an even bigger seller on 3DS than Miitopia, and many fans have been requesting for this game to get remastered or some sort of new entry for it. So I think this is something we could see on Switch. It's the kind of game that I think would do well even during the Switch 2 era. It's not something that many fans would be wanting like a 4K version for necessarily. They just want to play a comparable, nice version on their Nintendo Switch, and there's a lot of people who have a Nintendo Switch, so this might be the ideal game to put out in the waning years of the console. Something else has proven to be a fairly big seller during the last couple generations is Luigi's Mansion. We already have Luigi's Mansion 3, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is about to come out, and I think with 2 and 3 already on the console, it makes sense to give us Luigi's Mansion 1 as well. I wouldn't expect this to be a high budget remaster. I would think of it more so kind of like what we saw for Pikmin 1 and 2. Basically kind of like a port, just upscale with some minor quality of life updates so the game plays well on Nintendo Switch, and that's pretty much it. But if that's all they did, I think most fans would still be very excited about it. The game would probably still look pretty good. I would say it's aged pretty well compared to most games from that time. And I just want to reiterate that I think it would be weird to have Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3 but not the original on the console. So I think this is pretty likely, but we shall see. And for the final 2 spots, I'm going to talk about them together because once I say one, I kind of spoil the other, is Metroid Primes 2 and 3. I'm going to be ranking Metroid Prime 2 as the number 1 spot, because I would expect we get Metroid Prime 2 before 3, assuming they're not bundled. And Metroid Prime 2 plays pretty much like Metroid Prime 1. It would be a lot easier to get that going considering that we already had the remastering of 1 on Switch. 3 on the other hand has the motion controls, and that might require just a little bit more work to be repurposed so it can play well on Nintendo Switch. It can definitely be done, especially with the Joy-Cons and all, but I would imagine they would also want to have a more standard format of playing as well that matches up with 1 and 2. So I just think there would be a few more challenges with that one, which is why I place Metroid Prime 2 as a bit more likely. But I expect both to come. I think they're the most likely out of every game in this list because Metroid Prime 4 is on the way, 2 and 3 have been rumored, and unlike the long-rumored Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HDs, where there's been really no reason for these to not come out at this point beyond just Nintendo waiting for a time that they think makes more sense, 2 and 3 obviously haven't needed to come out yet because Prime 4 hasn't even been shown. But with Prime 4 inching closer and closer to release, the time to release 2 and 3 is fast approaching, and it hasn't passed us yet, so I think these are pretty likely, and I wouldn't be surprised if come the next Nintendo Direct, perhaps by the time you're watching this video, that the Direct may have already happened, I think Metroid Prime 2 at least will have been announced. And so in my opinion, in this order, these are the most likely remasters for Nintendo Switch. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart, thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.